In our devotional thought today, we're dealing with some of the challenges that Moses faced with the rebellions of the people of Israel. And I want to teach you three great truths regarding rebellion. But let's read Numbers chapter 20, beginning with verse 1. In the first month of the year, the whole community of Israel arrived in the wilderness of Zin and camped at Kadesh. While they were there, Miriam died and was buried. There was no water for the people to drink at that place, so they rebelled against Moses and Aaron. The people blamed Moses and said, "If only we died in the Lord's presence with our brothers. Why have you brought the congregation of the Lord's people into this wilderness to die along with our livestock? Why did you make us leave Egypt and bring us here to this terrible place? This land has no grain, no figs, no grapes, no pomegranates, and no water to drink." Moses and Aaron turned away from the people and went to the entrance of the tabernacle, where they fell face down on the ground. Then the glorious presence of the Lord appeared to them. There are three great truths I want you to see here about the rebellion of the people of Israel in this passage. The first great truth is that rebellion is often caused by need. Notice verse 2 and 3, there was no water for the people to drink. So they rebelled against Moses and Aaron. Verse 3, the people blamed Moses. Now, different people face need different ways. People who have faith never have rebellion in their hearts. They know that God will provide. People who face need, always wanting to blame somebody else, and they have no faith, usually wind up in rebellion. Now, in my short life, I've seen this played out again and again. I've watched it in churches all over the world. I've watched people who, they face a need, they rebel against their pastors, they rebel against the government, or they rebel against whatever, because they don't have faith for God to provide. And they always have to blame somebody else. Okay, they're looking for somebody to blame rather than looking to God to provide. So the first great truth to understand is that rebellion is often caused by need. And it's not that the need triggers the rebellion. It's the condition of the person's heart facing the need. Second great truth. People in rebellion accept no responsibility for their own decisions that contributed to their current condition. Let me say that one more time. People in rebellion are people who accept no responsibility for their own decisions that contributed to this current difficult situation. Now, look at verse 3. It says the people blamed Moses. Look at verse 4. Why have you brought the congregation of the Lord's people into this wilderness to die along with our livestock? Why did you make us leave Egypt and bring us here to this terrible place? Now, Moses could have looked at them and said, why did you rebel against God at the entrance to the promised land and then you couldn't go in? You know, they could have had a big tit for tat spitting contest, but they didn't. Moses backed away, as we'll talk about here in just a moment. But isn't it interesting? They blamed Moses, and they would not accept any responsibility for the fact that, you know what? They could have already been living in their own homes, sleeping in their own bed. They could have already been harvesting their own crops in the promised land. They could have already been having their own properties in the promised land. They could have already been enjoying the blessings and the promises of God, but they, in their rebellion and in their lack of faith, made bad decisions. And those decisions were why they were where they were right now. But rebellious people never want to accept responsibility for the consequences of their own actions. Now, the third great truth I want you to see here is that Moses and Aaron did not get into an argument with them. They didn't sit there and say, well, you know, your rebelliousness and your disobedience is why we're here. You know what? God's wanted to kill you a couple of times, and I've gone to God and asked God not to. God's offered to make me the head of a new nation, not Abraham, but I said no. They could have gone out and done all of that, but Moses and Aaron did not. Notice what they did. Moses and Aaron turned away from the people. You don't stand there in the middle of their confrontation. They're not going to make any sense. Moses and Aaron turned away from the people and went to the entrance of the tabernacle, where they fell face down on the ground. Then the glorious presence of the Lord appeared to them. If you're a young pastor listening to me today and you're facing rebellion, turn away from the people and go get on your face before God. That's the solution to rebellion. Not getting in a war, not telling them how foolish they were and how rebellious they were and it's their fault. They're not going to accept any of that. Just go get on your face before God in Jesus' name.